Greetings and welcome back to Wolf Kage Los Angeles. Today we're diving into some real heat. Donald Trump's tariffs and the unexpected ways they're already benefiting the nation. We're also pulling back the curtain on some of the scams and systemic corruption right here in California, including what's unfolding in Hollywood and the political games being played with your tax dollars. Stay tuned, it's all coming up. Let's go.
See oil production at an all-time high under President Biden. He didn't tout it that often, but Secretary
Well, he did because of the permitting that happened under President Trump. I mean, the all-time record oil production under Biden was because of Trump. It was in spite of Biden. I was running a state that was a natural resources state, and we were fighting the federal government. The federal government wasn't even holding the legally required lease sales during the Biden administration. First president since Harry Truman was Biden that didn't hold those lease sales. So for them to take credit, that was all because...
Well, they didn't take credit because it wasn't very popular with their voters.
Well,
Secretary Berger...
Affordable electricity is popular with everyone, and America needs to make sure we don't lose the thing. I mean, take a look what's happening in Europe right now with this 60 million people in a brownout blackout. We came very close to that happening in America because the Biden administration policy so dangerously eroded baseload in favor of having unreliable intermittent sources. And so we're just fortunate that we're not where Europe is right now, and we don't want to go there. Germany spent $500 billion to go chase a green path. And they ended up with electricity that cost 3 times as much, and they're producing 20% less.
All right, so let's start with what's making headlines. Donald Trump's tariffs. Now, tariffs are nothing new. The U.S. has used them since the 1700s. Alexander Hamilton, Abraham Lincoln, and even Ronald Reagan all employed them to protect American jobs. But Trump, he went full throttle. In 2018, he placed tariffs on over $250 billion worth of Chinese imports. Critics, well, they screamed, "Trade war!" But what actually happened was this. U.S. manufacturing gained nearly 500,000 jobs between 2017 and 2019. More companies started reshoring, bringing production back home. And guess what? That levels the playing field. And when you level the playing field, the average American wins. But you see, that's the problem for the elites. They do not want regular Americans rising, because if you get a bigger slice of the pie, their piece doesn't look so special anymore.
This is a very important report. With all of the hysteria over tariffs, we know that jobs are being created, and it is much better than expected. At 177,000 jobs added to the economy in April, this proves Donald Trump's point that the economy is doing well.
I've said this before many times to friends and family members that Trump's tariffs are being wildly underestimated, and that's no accident. You see, the liberal media makes it seem like these policies are anti-American, like they are designed to punish the citizen, but in truth, they are built to uplift us. The media does not work for the people. It works for the corporate overlords who profit when you stay misinformed. Let's not forget, those TV pundits, they're paid to say what they say. Their private opinions, you'll never hear that, because the moment they go off script, they're off air and off payroll. So let's come back to California for a moment. We've got politicians who make around $200,000 a year, roughly, like Nancy Pelosi. But somehow people like that end up being worth hundreds of millions of dollars, if not more. How is that even possible?
If I own stock in something and I do a good job and the stock market goes up, I guess I'm profiting. But who really profits is somebody like Nancy Pelosi, who uses inside information. She worked for $175,000 a year, and that's at the high end, and she's worth $150, $200 million. Okay? You ought to look at Nancy Pelosi, and you ought to look at some of these politicians that are stone-cold crooks. I was very wealthy when I came in. Being president, I probably cost me money if you really look.
Let's be clear about this, too. There's no public record of Pelosi being worth $200 billion, but the explosive growth of her and her other political elites' wealth should raise some eyebrows. Is it just smart investing? Or is it insider access the rest of us will never see? All the while, the California public, well, we have to suffer. Our taxes are sky high, homelessness rampant, and basic infrastructure is falling apart. People like to call it mismanagement, but this is not mismanagement. It's what I believe to be money laundering. Money laundering with a government seal. And who pays the price? I do. You do.
The California dream is as good as dead, according to journalist and author Susan Crabtree.
California has become a dystopia, and the middle-class California dream is no longer. It is now a fool's errand to pursue that dream unless you are a moneyed elite, just like Gavin Newsom and Nancy Pelosi and Kamala Harris.
What would you point to as the largest crisis California is facing right now? Is it the high cost of buying homes? Is it actually the drug-related crime issues? What is the main thing chasing people who are leaving California? Why are they leaving?
We have the highest cost of almost everything, from utilities to gas to housing, everything, and we're not getting the benefits of safety. And I really believe that the crime issue is one of the biggest things that are driving people away. And from our book, we point out, we uncover the fact that Gavin Newsom, during the COVID pandemic, he released 70,000 prisoners, some of them violent, back onto the streets. His excuse was because they were safer. There was going to be a COVID epidemic in the prisons, but they were safer out in the communities. We found out that was a complete fabrication. The COVID rates were higher in the communities than they were in the prisons.
Now, let's talk about how Trump's tariffs even hit Hollywood. Back in 2017, Chinese companies were pouring billions into the entertainment industry. But once the trade war began, that money stopped flowing. By about 2020, Chinese investment in Hollywood had dropped more than 90%. Studios started self-censoring scripts to please foreign markets. Studios started cutting budgets. Studios started self-censoring scripts to please foreign makers. But now there's a push for more American-centric stories, not global pander. The global market is finally shifting, and even the film industry is starting to feel it.
What about the movie tariffs?
Yeah, the movie tariffs, what they've done is other nations have been stealing the movie-making capabilities from the United States. And I said to a couple of people, what do you think? I've done some very strong research over the last week, and we're making very few movies now. Hollywood is being destroyed. Now, you have an incompetent, grossly incompetent governor that allows that to happen. So I'm not just blaming other nations, but other nations, a lot of them, have stolen our movie industry. And I'm saying if they're not willing to make a movie inside the United States, then we should have a tariff on movies that come in. And not only that, governments are actually giving big money. I mean, they're supporting them financially. So that's sort of a threat to our country in a sense. And it's been a very popular thing. I can tell you one thing, movie makers love it.
Trump's 100% movie tariff sparks a global meltdown. Hi, it's producer Patrick bringing you the latest with the ever-evolving film and TV industry. This would destroy the independent film sector. That's how one Hollywood insider described Trump's latest bombshell, a 100% tariff on any movie that's made outside of the United States. The president claims that foreign-made films are a national security threat, accusing other countries of stealing American jobs and spreading messaging and propaganda. He says Hollywood is dying fast, and the movies should be made in America again. But most of the industry isn't buying it, as many believe a federal U.S. tax incentive is what's ultimately needed to help the crisis. Meanwhile, producers around the world remain in disbelief. Germany, the UK, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, all of them sounding the alarm. Even Kansas bracing for political fallout, as sales could potentially collapse as distributors panic. Foreign-shot blockbusters like Avatar, Mission Impossible, and even indie films could be priced out of the US market. And as for the streaming giants, well, they're also at risk, since their entire model depends on producing globally and releasing in the US. Movie producer Stephen Paul, Trump's rumored film advisor, and who was found liable for copyright infringement last year, is reportedly part of the effort to bring production back to US soil. But critics say it could actually backfire. Most studios rely on overseas tax incentives, and economists warn that cutting them off won't actually create jobs, and instead make mid-budget films unproducible. And foreign governments are already pushing back. Whether this tariff actually sticks or not, the impacts are already being felt. And the global film industry? Well, they're now watching closely, with Trump's trade war threatening to become a box office bomb of its own.
Now, before I get out of here, I want to play this clip of Grant Cardone, and what he's doing may surprise you. Grant is suing the county assessor's office. That's right, because here in California, people have lost their homes and now they're being taxed up to Yahoo instead of being helped. And once again, it's not a mistake. It's not a bad policy. This is something that I would call systemic corruption. And the news, once again, local news, silent. So, I give respect to Grant Cardone because he's someone with a platform that has the guts to take this battle to the public and bring it to the people. Check this clip out.
I'm going to sue the county assessor's office.
Are you?
Yeah. I'm going to start a mass action lawsuit.
So this is Grant Cardone's tax assessment. He and everyone impacted by the LA fires is getting these in the mail.
Oh, no, I'm not going to pay it. And I'm going to fight it.
His $40 million house was damaged and everything around it burned. But the new assessment still comes back to $37 million.
They're basically taking advantage of the situation. I think believing nobody's going to feel sorry for the guy with the $40 million house, and I'm not asking you to, but Altadena's got a problem. Those aren't rich people, by the way. Palisades, you got 12,000 structures burnt to the ground. They have a problem. Those are middle-class people. Dude, it's like California's being run by a criminal operation, and the goal is the biggest land grab in the history of the United States of America.
This is what the law tells us that we have to do. If there is need for additional relief, and I might be willing to agree and argue that there is, but that's outside of my jurisdiction.
The LA County tax assessor tells me they run on a fiscal year that starts in July. So these assessments are essentially from July up until the fires in January.
So the notice they're getting will show that their property values have been reduced by 50%, and that's to reflect the fact that the fires occurred halfway through the taxing year.
What's the appraisal value? It's an unsellable, not an asset. It's an unsellable liability in its current condition. They're using the tax assessor's office to put pressure on people that don't have a home. Why would you pay property taxes on a house you can't live in?
Important to differentiate that I'm not the guy who collects the taxes. I'm just the person who determines the value. Some of the fixes would require probably a constitutional amendment or minimally legislation from the state. I did advocate to provide property tax forbearance for property owners, but I was told by the legislature that would be unconstitutional.
You know, this old saying about you'll own nothing and be happy about it, it feels like what's happening in the state of California right now.
So that's it for today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And most of all, thank you for caring about the truth. I am Wolf Kage, and this is Wolf Kage Los Angeles. Peace. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. I'm out of here.